Hi, so in this tutorial, I'm going to just quickly have a look at color correction and grading in Premiere Pro in case you want to use that for the assessment. What you'll see with these clips are they're the same ones that I used in my introduction to color correction and grading where I went through DaVinci Resolve. So these are the same clips and I'm basically going to do exactly the same exercise that I did in Resolve but just in Premiere. So the clips are here in my timeline, and what I'm going to do is at the top here, you can see I'm in editing sort of workflow. In fact, workspace, should I say? I'm just trying to remind myself what it's called, workspace. So I'm in editing workspace, but I can change that to a color workspace. If I press that, you'll see what it does is it brings up scopes on one side, so I can just tick Lumetri scopes, and then I have my color correction tools on the right. And so now I can just go through. I'm going to just make this a little bit smaller so I can stretch that timeline out so I can see all my clips. And I'm going to go in and you can see the same thing. We're 0 to 100, which represents my tonal range. So we can do the same thing we've done in any other tutorial, which is pull the shadows down if we want. Okay, and we can pull the highlights up if we like to sort of stretch that section out. And we might find that it's kind of struggling a little bit. So I'm going to just stretch that mid-tones out as well a bit. It's still a bit dark. There we go, and pull those shadows down. Okay, so I have the ability to adjust that here, and I can do that for sort of every image. Go in, stretch those highlights up. Okay, and again, shadows down a bit. These are all quite dark shots, hence why we're really having to pull those mid-tones up. You see, you get a little red line along it. That means it needs to render that now in order to be able to play it in real time. There you go. Seems to be doing okay on this machine, but you might find that it struggles a little bit to play in real time. If you want to fix that, you can go to Sequence, Render Effects, In and Out, or you can see the Enter key will do that. So if I press Enter, okay, it will start to render those effects. So when it's rendering, it's basically creating that effect. So when you get a green line now, and it should be able to play in real time. So just in case if you get that error as you're going through and color correcting, just press Enter. Okay, so yeah, like I said, we can basically go through and we can make sort of these adjustments if you want. This shot actually is very dark to begin with, hence the struggle of sort of really getting these values to come up. Undo, because I'm struggling a little bit to get the exposure correct here. So what I can do is go to the effect controls firstly. I'm going to select Lumetri color. I'm going to press the delete key to remove that. You'll see it all resets back to 0. Okay, so if no changes have been made, there's no effect on it. The effect automatically applies as soon as you make a change. So the reason I've done that is because actually on here, all the color controls are in this one Lumetri color panel. So you can click on any title to expand it. So we were in color wheels at the moment, but we've got a few others. I could go to curves and so on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to have a look at basic color correction. If I've got a basic, I've got exposure tool. If I do that, you can see that's also adjusting the exposure, and that's stretching up a lot better than the waveform, a lot better than what the curves could do. So I might choose to just use that. You've still got highlights and shadows adjustment here as well. So if I put that shadow down, I should be able to, as you can see, pull that down a bit if I want to as well. Okay, so we can do it that way as well if you like. I'm going to leave that there. And really, you can combine these two. So I can still go back to my color wheels now and be like, you know what? I want to pull those shadows down a little bit, and I want to pull those midtones up. So you might find actually in some cases it kind of makes sense to start with the exposure, adjust that, and then go in and adjust these later. Okay, so we have the ability to do that there as well. And so with this one as well, for now, we'll just quickly do an adjustment of the highlights and shadows. Again, you can see in here, if you're looking at the vector scope, you can see the saturation really increases, just like it did with the other example in DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so tonal range fixing, you can see it works in a very similar way. Okay, just going to pull that up a bit there. And again, sort of didn't go all the way. I might just use the exposure tab to pull that up slightly more. Okay, so I've done that combined. if I go back to this clip, obviously, if you remember from the original Resolve tutorial, it's 2 blue. Yeah, and you can see that it doesn't match. Okay, so we need to take the blue out. So we could just go back to our color wheels and we could just adjust these values away from the blues. And as we start to do that, okay, it will start to return back to normal color. I'm going to undo that for now. So obviously we can adjust, like I said, up our color wheels, but let's have a look at what else we've got. So if I go to obviously curves, so if you remember the hue versus saturation, here we go, hue versus hue. These are very similar again to what we looked at before. In fact, they're the exact same curves. Yeah, remember you can select an individual color and make an adjustment just to that. But so let's close up, and then you've got RGB curves there as well if you want the standard curves. So they're all in there, but we're not going to use those. Let's go to creative. Okay, so here we go. So what have we got here? So firstly, we've got a tint balance. Let's try that. So if we make an adjustment on that, does it adjust it? Oh, no, it doesn't seem to want to do that. That's a bit unusual, isn't it? I guess it means that once you've shadow tint, highlight tint, so you have to apply a tint and then you can adjust its balance. Gotcha. Right, okay. So again, a lot of this is just figuring out there's slight variances in the way these controls work. In that case, it'll be basic color correction. Here we go, and we've got a temperature slider. So we could use that. So we move away from the blue because we know it's already too blue. And we can do that, and we can start to reduce some of the blue that way. I'm going to undo that. We also have a little color picker here. If I click on that, if I have something that's supposed to be white in my image, I can select that and click, and it will make that white. So it'll make the adjustment based on that, and it will correct that way. So there's a couple of ways to correct for inaccuracies in hue that way. Okay, but that is not so different to what we did in DaVinci Resolve. Okay, so that's a quick intro to some of the basic primary grading, but doing it in Premiere. Okay, thank you for watching.